Well, hello everybody out there in the land. It's Chris from HHN.com with another exciting episode of Topher's Log. A little bit of a weird episode of Topher's Log. So I've been trying to get out to the parks a lot more, doing my normal updating in the parks. You know, still wrestling with the, with the sort of depression, mental health issues. But I'm getting better. I'm starting to get back into a little bit more of a routine. And I got a new little vlogging camera for it. I do have an external microphone. My microphone has a giant fluffy wind muff that goes over the top of it, which is what I usually use when I'm at the parks. I thought it would be a little bit more pertinent for this camera to buy one that's a little bit like sleeker and leaner and cheaper. And I learned a very valuable lesson. You get what you pay for. The audio in the video that I shot today is virtually unusable. I can't use any of the audio. But there was a part of the video that I really wanted to show, which was me talking about the structure that has appeared over by the Men in Black ride there. The Men in Black tent. I hesitate to call it that because there are other factors at play here, I think. But I'm going to go ahead and play that section of audio for you guys. There's one spot where the audio gets totally out of whack. Please forgive me for that. But I also wanted to flash up some video of some of the new stuff that we shot or that we saw today, which was the VillainCon entryway. That got some brand new lettering and stuff like that, as well as the food venues over there in New York, which have been behind construction walls for a long time. Those have been revealed from behind the construction walls. They got a little bit of a makeover, as well as on the backside, you have some posters that sort of give you things that are around the park itself, such as, ironically, the Flushing Meadows area over there by Men in Black Alien Attack, San Francisco, Marilyn Monroe, and a collage poster which has a reference to the Kitty Cat Club. So yeah. Plus, I didn't check the other one, but the one down Fifth Avenue has the Coke Freestyle machines. The venue that's up at the front that's still behind construction walls over there by Hello Kitty and the Betty Boop stuff over there, that is still behind construction walls. So I just wanted to play the one section of audio talking about the structure, which I seem to have to talk about all the time. I'm gonna play that for you guys, but please forgive some of the audio. There's, like I said, there's one spot that's kind of bad, but lesson learned. I will always use my fluffy muff for my microphone in the future. It is what it is. Good thing these things were cheap. These were like $10, but not ideal for outdoor shooting. Let me tell you. So there's that. But anyway, here's a little clip. I did want to address the elephant in the room, which is the tent that has appeared over next to Men in Black. Now, I seem to have to talk a lot about the Men in Black tent specifically every year because there's a lot of false information or information that's not exactly correct when it comes to the history of the Men in Black tent. Now, the Men in Black tent, of course, was first used back in 2016 for the Lunatics Playground 3D house back there, Chance's house. One of the worst houses Horror Nights has ever done, but I digress. But it was first used back then in 2016. It was not used for the first time last year because of a bunch of let's call them kerfuffles when it comes to the demolition of the Fear Factor live stage. Now, the Men in Black tent, this is one of the misconceptions that happens all the time with the Men in Black tent. The Men in Black tent came up and came down every year. It was never kept up all year round, with the exception of 2020, when Halloween Horror Nights 30 was canceled because of the COVID-19 pandemic. They kept all the houses up all year round, including the Men in Black tent, because they were just going to reuse them for the event in 2021, still celebrating Halloween Horror Nights 30. So the tent did come up and come down every year. The inception of that, I believe, is because when the tent was first used, the tent was in fact a rental. Universal didn't own that tent. They were renting the tent, so it had to come up and come down every year. Plus, permits, the construction permits, everybody is always freaking out about every year. Those have expiration dates, and they can't keep everything up all year round. Like I said, with the exception of what happened in 2020, because that was just an anomaly year. The Men in Black tent is not the same kind of tent that the sprung tents are. The sprung tents are they're not really tents. They are physical structures that are designed to be left up for long periods of time. The sprung in the name comes from the company that builds the tents, but they just call them tents. But they are designed to be more permanent structures, and those things do not come up and down every year. They stay up They are hurricane proof, but we do know that based on history, the sprung tents tend to have issues when it comes to water. When we have bad rainstorms, or when it rains a lot, there tends to be a lot of flooding back there. And even during Halloween Horror Nights nights, if it rains, or if there's hurricanes or whatever, there tends to be water issues back there. Last year, if you attended Halloween Horror Nights 31, for both the sprung tents and for the new parade building, they built platforms for people to stand on, as opposed to people walking on the dirt itself, to sort of elevate people for when it does rain back there, so you're not standing in the water or the mud or the dirt. So they did make some improvements back there last year for that issue. But yeah, so the main point I wanted to make is that the Men in Black tent is not a sprung tent. It is not the same. It is literally a wedding tent, which is reinforced. They put a steel skeleton on the inside to sort of reinforce the structure. Back a couple of years ago, what they did do is they created sort of a concrete slab, which you can see from overhead photos these days. And if you walked the long walk that was for Bugs last year, you could see the concrete slab that the tent usually sits on. They did that, I believe it was the second or third year the tent was up. They sort of built that sort of concrete slab to sort of give the tent more stability for houses and stuff like that. But for all intents and purposes, the tent that they use back there is like a wedding tent. It's a wedding rental tent. It's not like the sprung tents, which are designed to withstand the elements, especially here in Florida. But anyway, one of the biggest misconceptions about the tent is that it stayed up all year round. It did not. It came up and came down every year. It was not a permanent structure. There's a couple of things that I wanted to address without sort of giving my knowledge about things away, about what the tent could or could not be, or what it is. There's a couple different scenarios that I want to throw out there. So scenario number one is that it is a tent that is going to be used for Halloween Horror Nights 32. If that was the case, we know, based on the permits and also from overhead pictures, that the tent that is currently back there is not as large as the typical Horror Nights tents that we see every year in that location. This one's about half the size, so if maybe a little bit even less than half the size. So if it was to be used for Halloween Horror Nights for a house, you're looking at a house that is significantly smaller than what we are used to. Now, does that raise the specter of maybe we do get 11 houses? And it's just a smaller house, maybe like a bonus house, because Universal has already announced that there will be 10 houses at Halloween Horror Nights 32, so that sort of crosses off the 11th house rumor. So that's scenario number one. Scenario number two, let's say that it can be used as a sort of resting station for all the Grad Bash things that are going on here, for the chaperones and things like that. I do believe Universal has done that in the past. I'm not sure about that specific location, but they have put up, I believe, these sort of same types of tents in the past for sort of, chaperones and stuff like that to take a rest while the kids run amok around the park by themselves. So that could be another scenario for that. Scenario number three could be, what if they decided to go ahead and continue on with their plans to demolish the Fear Factor Live stage? Maybe that tent will be used as a resting area for the construction workers, people who are, taking down the stage and or building whatever it is they might build in its place. Doing all that stuff. Could very well be. Another scenario I would like to throw out to you guys is we all made that long walk to Bugs last year. Maybe it's going to be a bar, maybe like a little bar resting station as you make your way down to the Bugs or whatever house is over in the sprung tent there this year. That could also be a possibility. Is it a little bit too soon to be putting up a tent for a bar that would be used for the walk? Sure, it is. Typically in the past, when we have seen the Men in Black tent pop up for houses, they usually start putting it up around this time, which is the end of Mardi Gras time. That is typically the sort of time frame. So I kind of find it funny that now we have this. Maybe Universal's, doing this is sort of because they know that it's going to cause buzz and stuff like that, and whatever. Who knows? Maybe they're playing both sides this year. I don't know, but So that's another sort of possibility. It could also be used for dual purpose. So let's say it is going to be used, let's say scenario number 3 pans out and it is used as sort of like a bar resting location for people who are walking to the sprung tent back there for this year. But it could also be used for a resting station for the chaperones, for the grad bash and stuff like that. Still put up early because I had a bug on me. Still put up early because it is, it's still going to be used for grad bash, but it will also be used for Halloween Horror Nights 31. So a couple different scenarios. I seem to have to talk about the stupid Men in Black tent every year because there's a lot of false information and stuff that sort of is thrown out there every year. Some pretty prominent people on the internet tend to not get the information correct about the Men in Black tent. People seem to be surprised when we did actively use it that it was up, and people tend to be like, well, isn't it always up? No, it's not always up. It's that tent always came up and down every year, with the exception of Halloween Horror Nights 30, because they kept everything up that year because of the COVID-19. So just a couple of quick thoughts about what we've seen back there now. I do believe, if my memory serves, we do have a permit for the Fast and the Furious location over there. So I do expect a house to be over at the Fast and Furious location. So I don't see any reason why they would be putting a house over there again this year, especially one that, for all intents and purposes, is about half the original size of the houses that are usually over there. So I don't, food for thought for Horror Nights people this year. Speculation abounds, but I thought I would give a little bit of context and detail on my thoughts about the current tent that's over there. I'm not going to call it a house tent, but the tent that is over there at the moment. The legend, as they say, is real. Just some food for thought.